between the ages of 8 and 15, I was a child victim. I know what it means to not have a voice. I know what it means for someone not to be there for me. I can make a difference, but I can't do it alone. It's going to take a lot of people. It's going to take law enforcement. It's going to take the community to reach and help, because this is their community. This is not just mine. And I'm willing to risk everything for it. I have a very comfortable life.
Welcome back, viewers, watchers, listeners. I'm your host, Tyler Owen.
And Clint McNear.
Man, welcome back. I have missed you. I have longed for your presence. And we just concluded the Texas FOP Tmpa conference in Dallas. Some pretty big news. El Presidente. I don't want to, spill the beans a little bit, but good conference.
It was an awesome conference. We had 500, probably 520 or so people from all over Texas there.
And the smoothest conference we've ever had.
It was actually probably the smoothest one I've been to.
Yeah. Well, it's because you were the El Presidente of the Texas FOP chapter.
Congratulations,
man.
Thank you.
I was in the back and I was reminiscing of like all of our moments, like almost like a photo reel. And I got teary-eyed, but I didn't want to cry in front of all of our members in the conference body, because I didn't know if I had to go on stage or like what I was going to do. Typically, like when there's unified partnerships, like podcast guest host, they typically bring like their podcast buddy up there and say, "This is all because of our friendship. I did it for him.
I wouldn't be here without him."
Yeah, and that didn't happen. But there's always next year.
Yeah, we'll do that next time.
And we wanted to give some. I said, how is this going to work? Because I've gotten text messages and phone calls like, "Man, what the hell is Clint McNear doing leaving Tmpa? And is he going to be Texas FOP?"
No, that's a good question. I've had the same. So I'm not going anywhere. You are stuck with me here. It's just an additional role as president of Texas FOP. But I've had people reaching out, "Hey, man, I hate you're leaving Tmpa, or can I have your job now you left?" And nothing's changed. I'm still here full time. Y'all are stuck with me, but just wearing two hats now instead of one.
Well, I guarantee you're going to be busy. You were busy before as the state secretary. Now you're going to be probably overloaded a little bit with the president.
Oh, good.
We're all excited, man. Yeah.
Yep. No,
all excited.
Keeps me young. Most people don't believe I'm only 38 years old.
I know. You're a year behind me. Yeah, you're a year behind me. Speaking of Texas FOP, one of our, I guess, the vice president.
First vice president
David Cuevas reached out about having a podcast guest. Of course, we're always open to people submitting guest ideas, but this one's a hot topic. This one is an important topic and one that needs we need to have some discussion about it. We've had the other candidate on before, and so we wanted to bring him on today. And you set that up for us.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. Welcome on. We have Dan Simons, who is the current Republican candidate for Harris County District Attorney's Office. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you.
El Presidente. We got to say that just like that.
El Presidente. I like it.
Yeah.
And you got David helping you, so
yes,
I like. He's an awesome guy.
He's a good dude, and there's the Houston areas. There's a lot of good people, and there's a lot of strong law enforcement leaders in that area, and blessed to be friends with them, and we work together a lot. So it's good crew to have access to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to be actually part of it, and I have a lot of their support over there. And that's the only way we're going to win this is with all the support we can get from law enforcement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Harris County's been in a mess for quite some time. I'm not a fan of kind of what the current leadership is. Never have been, because there's just been some issues with what's going on. But you're there to try to change it. And you're there to try to change the perception of what the DA's office is doing and how we can move forward in a positive direction and be more, what would you say, friendly with law enforcement and work together towards crime?
Absolutely. I mean, whenever 8 years ago when things kind of flipped, a lot of things throughout the country started happening. Yeah. One of them was a lot of the DA's office, like Philadelphia, Chicago, Portland, San Francisco, L.A., they got rid of a lot of top prosecutors. Same thing happened in Harris County. And then you had this massive movement, anti-law enforcement, and pretty much defund the police. And it's created quite a big mess in Harris County. And people talk about, well, Harris County is dangerous and it's never going to come back. It can't be. Well, look at Montgomery County right above us. You can go to a park and feel safe there. You can't do it 30 minutes down the road. And there's a way to get back there.
Yeah.
but it certainly isn't traveling down the same road that we've already gone.
Yeah.
You've got drug cases, a massive backlog. You had 100 or 287,000 cases that weren't even investigated. And this is all through the Sylvester Turner years where they're telling you that Harris County has no crime issue, which baffles me that people bought that because it is very dangerous. So when you have all those things working against you, Harris County becomes a criminal safe haven. I mean, when they get arrested now, they ask the officers one question: are we still in Harris County? They don't want to be in Montgomery County, other counties, because they're going to be held accountable. So we have an accountability issue that has basically happened the last 4 years, and it's a joint effort by the people that are actually sitting in those positions. But we can fix that. And it takes working together. It takes building and bridging the gap between law enforcement and the DA's office, bridging the gap between the judges and the DA's office, trying to find some kind of olive branch with the commissioner's court so they'll actually fund the DA's office. And right now we've got a problem where we're funding more, a lot of our budget is funding criminal defendants and not criminal prosecution of defendants. I mean, think about what the PD's office has. Bigger budget. They've got a court-appointed system down there that they're trying to make every defense attorney a court-appointed lawyer.
Wow.
So if somebody gets arrested and you're the victim, you get victimized again because you're going to pay for their lawyer. You're going to pay for their bond conditions. And this is all covered under the budget. But it's not going to the DA's office. And the DA's office is overwhelmed and understaffed. Yep. And Kim has a really good complaint there. So Kim did not get removed from office because of crime in Harris County. She didn't get removed because of the revolving door in Harris County. She got removed by an opportunist that saw a chance to help out some friends and for leadership to get out of an investigation. She's got 3 staffers, and this is going to Lena Hidalgo. She has 3 staffers under indictment and herself under investigation as well. Kim got removed because she was going after Democrats on corruption, not because of crime. This is why I have an opponent that basically won her 75 to 25. You go back to some of the things that were being said back in October of last year, a lot of those things like, I'm not going to go and prosecute Democrats because they don't want that. And that's who we're up against. And I don't care who you are out there, any Republican out there, if you really believe this line, I mean, there's some oceanfront property in Arizona that this individual is just telling everybody what they want to hear just to get elected, and he's going to all of a sudden become a conservative Democrat. You have to look at the people that he's aligned himself with. Lena Hidalgo, Rodney Ellis, Sylvester Turner, and $2 million from Soros to get rid of Kim Ogg, who got $500,000 8 years ago. And let's talk about that for a moment. Every district attorney in the country funded by Soros and the different PACs like TOP, Texas Organizing Project, and all that, look at what they've done for their area. Look at New York. Look at Philadelphia. Yeah. How safe is there? Look at Chicago. Look at San Francisco. They tried to basically legalize shoplifting, and what did it do? It ran so many businesses out of town. Look at Portland, where they pretty much decriminalized drugs.
Dallas County, where they are more focused on indicting police officers than they are criminals.
Yeah. Look over in L.A., where you got Gascon, and honestly, I think this guy's just like Gascon. Will do whatever it says to get elected and does not care about law enforcement. They'll do anything to get out there.
Well, you ain't got to look that far outside of Texas. Look right here in Travis County. And what scares me is that I don't even think he took as much money as what your opponent took from Soros.
That's right.
So if we're prepared for that, then we better strap in and buckle up.
Well, the only thing stopping Harris County from being Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Chicago, Portland, San Francisco, L.A., and New York is Kim Ogg. She wasn't playing ball with them, and they removed her because she wouldn't. Do you think they're going to replace her with someone that won't play ball with them? No. And if he does have this perception that he's going to be DA if he gets elected, he's wrong. He's not going to ever be DA. He will always be told what to do. And if he tries to buck it, they will remove him. They will primary him out just like Kim Ogg. Harris County does not need a district attorney that represents one party and one specific elite group. They need a district attorney that represents everybody equally and fairly. I can deliver that. And the way I'm going to deliver that is to show everybody of who I really am. Because you see, what the Democrats don't know or realize they were up against is this is not a typical year election. No. I'm not a typical Republican candidate. I grew up homeless and in foster care here in Texas. I lived in tents. I lived in backseat of cars. I lived in motels. The first month's rent, if we could afford it, campers, Lake Livingston, those areas. This is my background. In the middle of the night, state of Texas came in and took me and my brothers and sister away and put us in foster care. And I'm going to tell you now, foster care was worse than being homeless. That was, honestly, I can't express to you the level of corruption there. And I remember it very easily.
You bring up a good point. If we can backtrack, we start usually each episode with just, who's Dan? And let's bookmark right there and step back a bit and just tell us about yourself, where you were born, early life, growing up as a kid, and what that looked like, and we'll kind of navigate through this to where we are today.
You got it. Well, I was born in Galveston. Most of my childhood was spent bouncing around different schools in Beaumont, Port Arthur area, Kuntz, on over to Lake Livingston and Cold Springs. After foster care, at the age of 12, I asked to move in with friends that I met through the Salvation Army.
So when you were born into foster care?
No. I was grew up homeless with my mom, broken family.
That was all the bouncing around, just
wherever, living at whatever neighbors or friends, living in the projects, wherever. Wow. I mean, this is the life that I lived. My mom worked at Hispanic bars. I mean, we'd be camped outside in the car while she did her shift. I mean, this is the world I lived in. Drugs, alcohol, sex, all that as a kid. And whenever we got taken away and put in foster care, it was definitely just as bad. At 12 years old, I moved in with friends I met through the Salvation Army just to have the opportunity to be the first to graduate high school in my family's history.
Wow. Did you know at the time when you were bouncing around with your mom, did you know it was bad? Or a lot of times as a kid, you only know what you know. Was that your normal, or did you realize it was tough?
I realized that I'm never going to get an education by bouncing to school every 6 months. And starting behind every class was always difficult. But realizing that wasn't what I wanted. I saw what was around me. I saw where people go and what they have. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. A lot of those guys, they didn't do very well. I mean, all of them dropped out, 9th grade, 10th grade.
You were the youngest or the second?
I'm the second to the youngest.
Okay.
And, I mean, I've got relatives in prison. I mean, that's just the fact of life.
It's interesting that early on you realize that's not what you want. You want to do better. That's fascinating for a kid, because normally a kid only knows what they know, or doesn't think that far ahead of, I want to do better and be better and get out of this. And
in my world, if you were not an asset getting a Social Security check, you were a liability. You're also disposable. So I did everything I could because my brothers and sisters, they got money from the state. I didn't. I was a liability. So I did everything I could to not be a liability, to be an asset that people wanted to have me around. So that was early foundation for me, is like, work hard to make sure that people know that you're an asset.
Yeah.
And when I moved in with friends that I met through the Salvation Army, it was an opportunity that the only chance I really had to graduate high school.
How old were you then?
12 years old.
Wow.
And despite all the UCANTs and things like that, I did very well in school. I graduated 4th in my class, and I was an all-district quarterback for my hometown.
Wow.
What town was that?
Coleman.
Wow.
Just 9 miles north of Woodville.
Yep.
Now, what I didn't tell you is this. I don't hypothesize, and I don't talk third person about being a victim. Predators prey on the weak, they prey on the poor, and they prey on the vulnerable. I was not an exception. Between the ages of 8 and 15, I was a child victim. I know what it means to not have a voice. I know what it means for someone not to be there for me. When I left high school, it was pretty much, you're on your own. We can't do anything else for you. So I joined the Air Force because I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to protect victims. That's what my job was. That's what I wanted to do in life. In fact, I wanted to be a Texas Ranger one day. Probably watched way too much Texas Ranger, but I wanted to go after corruption. And the only way to do that is you had to be 21 years old to be a state trooper. And they don't exactly take from other branches. They'll take from the DPS. So that was my plan when I joined the Air Force.
Go to Lackland?
I was at Lackland. I managed to pick Lackland in August, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was it was very poor planning on my part. I was like, I'm going to enjoy the summer, and then I got to go, No, August 26th was not a very fun time. And then I went to, I stayed there for tech school in December and at Fort Bliss. It was very cold. So definitely a lot of fun in the military. I enjoyed my military career. I loved what I did. Now I went in law enforcement, and they had two divisions. They had security, police, and law enforcement. SP, watched planes on the flight line. I did not want to do that. I wanted to patrol base and do the gates. Well, when I joined and got stationed in Utah, they combined them. So now I found myself watching planes in the middle of the night for 12 hours going, what did I sign up for?
This is exciting.
Then I got volunteered overseas to go work in Bahrain, which it's 120 degrees during the day. I was in Italy as well, in San Vito. And I enjoyed my military career, but the problem was I took on way too much responsibility. At 19 years old, my dad, my biological dad, was crossing Lake Livingston because he's been disabled my entire life. And he made money by fishing for a living. And he was crossing the lake, and a boat motor kicked up, and he put his arm up to stop it.
Wow.
And about killed him. Well, I got called down here, and they said, look, we got no place to put him. So at 19 years old, I took my dad in as my man-child dependent. So here I am taking care of another human being.
Got out of the Air Force to do that?
No, sir. I stayed in the Air Force, got deployed, but the problem was in one of my tour duties, I had somebody taking care of my dad. They up and left. And my first sergeant said, hey, can you just check in on him till I get back? And they said, look, you're going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to, honorably discharge you from the military early, or you got to give your dad up as a dependent. You don't turn from responsibility. It was not in my best interest to get out of the military. I love the military. But sometimes you got to put other people's interest over your own. And I did that. I gladly make that sacrifice. And my dad was my dependent up until the age, till 2015, till he passed.
Wow.
So everything I'm about to tell you, I've managed to accomplish while taking care of my responsibilities with my dad. I got into the business world after the military, kind of by accident. And a partner inspired me to become a lawyer. So at the age of 27 years old, I moved back down here to Texas, started Angelina Junior College, worked out of state to still take care of everything. Went to Sam Houston State University, where I graduated #1 out of 1,108 students.
Wow.
And then I got accepted to Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston. Now, a lot of people said, dude, don't go to Thurgood. You can't pass the bar from Thurgood. You can't graduate from Thurgood, and you can't get a good job from Thurgood. The two things that were not stripped from me as a child is my honor and my integrity, and you dance with those who brought you. Thurgood Marshall gave me the opportunity. I did go to Thurgood. I did graduate magna cum laude. I did pass the bar on the first try, and here I am running to be the first Thurgood Marshall Texas Southern District Attorney in Harris County history.
Wow.
But I didn't stop there. I went to University of Houston for my master's in tax law. The DA's office was not my first choice. I did not want to do anything criminal related. But while I was getting that master's degree, I applied to the DA's office to do an internship because I wanted to get some experience.
Harris County?
Yes, sir. And they said, look, we don't hire lawyers for internship, so we're going to put you in the other pile. And I said, didn't know what that really meant.
Whoa. Okay, you're telling me that the DA's office said they don't hire attorneys
As interns.
No. But how do you get experience?
Law student?
No. Law students that are working on passing the bar. Because what it is they have, like the internship is they'll send out students, have them come and work in the DA's office while they're taking the bar.
Okay.
Well, usually taking the bar, going to school. Once they pass the bar, they'll give them a formal offer. But I already passed that. I already had a law degree. So they put me in the other pile. And I didn't think anything of it. A few months goes by, and I get a call from the DA's office, want to do an interview. And I'd already had plans to take over a tax law practice.
Right.
And that thing was grossing about $500,000 a year. So I don't know if I want to do that. But the lady I was talking to said, Dan, go check it out. Just make sure this is what you want to do. So I went down there for an interview, and honestly had a really good interview. I did another interview, another great interview. The third interview was probably the most hostile interview I'd ever gone into in my life. You walk into a room, there's a horseshoe shape. You walk in, they put you in the middle, and you got all these high-ranking DA officials in there just bombarding you. And see, I already had another plan in life. So I went in there and was like, well, we'll see what happens. And so they started interviewing me, and then I started interviewing them. Like, what do I get out of this? And a lot of them took offense to it. Like, who the hell are you? Well, look, I'm going to sacrifice a lot. What do I get? When I left that interview, one of the guys walking me out is a current judge, Aaron Burdett, said, well, we'll be in touch in a few weeks or months. These things kind of take time. They called me the next day and offered me the job. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to work for you guys. And she said, look, come in and just shadow a court and see what you think. So I went down there and I shadowed court 11, Judge Bull's court. Within an hour, I made a decision that was the easiest decision I've ever made in my life. I turned down the big job for a $60,000 a year job. Didn't even think twice or look back. I had never felt more at home. When I looked across the audience, I didn't see just defendants. I saw people.
What year was this?
This is 2013.
Okay.
And having 12 years of business and a lifetime of experience prior to that, before becoming a lawyer, kind of gave me a leg up on a lot of people I worked with, because most people are like my opponent. I mean, mom and dad paid for his high school at St. Thomas, first college, law school. His first job was the DA's office. I had a lifetime of experience prior to that.
You had lifetime experience by the time you were 12 years old.
So,
yeah, no kidding.
So I worked the DA's office, and I didn't work it like other people. I have worked my entire life. I know how to fight for myself and defend myself. Now I know how to work. I may not be smarter than the other people, but I'll outwork you. And in 3.5 years, with 8 months of that sitting on the sidelines and intake and juvenile, I tried over 70 total cases from justice of the peace all the way up to felony. Most prosecutors down there get about 20, 25. I'm a workhorse. This is what I do. When I left the DA's office, I wanted to be a practice defense, because I think a good district attorney needs to have a good balance of both sides. And I also tried to mix in being a judge there. I ran against a judge that lost his judicial independence. This judge was a 16-year incumbent that he went into another courtroom and testified as an expert witness for his best friend's daughter. And I had a problem with that.
Yeah.
So I ran against him and unseated him 70-30 in 2018, one of the largest landslides for a race like that in Harris County history too. Didn't know what I was doing, but you know what? You go out there and just be yourself. People respond to it. We all got wiped out in 2018, and I've been doing criminal defense ever since. I am a real criminal defense attorney, not one for 5 minutes, not one pretending to be a criminal defense attorney.
So you won the judge election?
I won the primary, but I lost the
Gotcha.
we lost the war.
Yeah, the general.
We all got wiped out, and you know, as fate would have it, 5 years ago I registered danforda.com. This is not by accident. I knew that I was going to run for DA in Harris County, just a matter of timing and when. Mm-hmm. And last year, when I saw an opportunity, I went down there and put DA Dan on the board, and I challenged anybody to run against me. Nobody wanted it, because, see, people believe that Harris County is unwinnable. They had believed that there's no possible way it's blue never coming back. I never saw that. I saw an opportunity that, hey, we can win this, actually. And I didn't even put up a primary fight, because I didn't need to. I didn't even have a web page. People didn't know there was a Republican candidate, to be honest. And I wanted it that way, because I want to let them see what the Democrats do. And they went out there and just beat up each other pretty well. And at the end of the day, 75-25. But here's some numbers for you that I think will give you hope. And this is for all the Republicans out there, all the law enforcement. They put $3.5 million into my opponent and 1 full year to advertising to get rid of Kim Ogg. I didn't even have a web page, and I got 20,000 more votes than he did.
Wow.
He had 9,500 undervotes in his race. I had 58,000 undervotes in my race. These are people that didn't know me. I've spent the last 4 months galvanizing the entire Republican Party, telling everybody, look, you've got a district attorney that can relate to everybody in Harris County. I'm not running for district attorney for Republican Party or Democrat Party. I'm running for Harris County district attorney, and I really can relate. I don't pretend to relate. Yeah. I'm not anybody's puppet. I'm not bought and paid for. This is what I bring to the table. And last month, we had some interesting things happen. My opponent decided, after months of telling everybody this thing was over with, sent out a nice little email that said, hey, folks, our Republican opponent's a little closer than we ever thought. We're worried. This race is a lot closer than anybody ever anticipated. This could be as close as the Hidalgo race in 2022. We need your help. Think about that. We went from December and January to unattainable, unwinnable, to right here, right now.
That's crazy, because in Dallas County, if Jesus ran as a Republican in Dallas County, he couldn't get elected. And I would have assumed all this time Harris County was very similar. So hearing, and Cuevas indicated the same. He's like, man, this thing is going to be super close, and there's a really good shot that Republican district attorney can pull this off. I was shocked because of being so familiar with Dallas County. And it says a lot about, I think it says a lot about your character, but I think it also says a lot about people are tired of the social experiments in large cities. All the cities that you've mentioned a couple of times, people are tired. That experiment failed, and it failed miserably, and I think people are tired of it.
I cannot say that any better than you just said it, because I call it this fake social experiment that they've been doing the last 8 years has failed miserably. The fake bond reform has failed miserably. You've got a guy out there running for district attorney that's endorsed heavily by TOP, Texas Organizing Project. Have you seen their poster? Clear the jails, in cash bond. I mean, he's standing right next to this poster. He's endorsed by these folks. Believe your eyes. Do not believe what someone's telling you, because somebody's feeding you a lot of crap, thinking that, oh, we're going to be law enforcement friendly. We're going to be victim friendly. Let me give you an example of what I'm up against. And I'll stay on him because, I can attack Lena all day long. But it's the people you surround yourself with will decide who you are. There's a prominent figure that just passed away, Mike DeGuerin. Condolences to his family. Dick DeGuerin, all those, great attorney. My opponent posted about it. Sheila Jackson Lee passed away. Long life. Put a lot of servitude for her community. My opponent posted about it. 12-year-old girl gets murdered and raped for 2 hours under a bridge, thrown in the bayou like trash by 2 illegal immigrants that came from El Paso. Crickets. Didn't even reach out to the mom. You're running for district attorney and you want people to believe you care about victims, and you don't even reach out or go to the visual. You don't go out and say, hey, I'm probably going to be the next district attorney. You're going to get justice. I will seek the death penalty for these two guys. Texas has the death penalty for a reason. If this case is not it, then I don't know why we have it. That has not happened. This tells you who this individual is. Yep. He's not about victims. Everything he talks about is geared towards defendants. Now, with saying that, I'm not going out there saying I'm going to lock everybody up, because that would be wrong. There are some people that deserve an opportunity, but not a handout. It's a hand up. Some people will get a chance at a diversion program. What can we do to teach responsibility and accountability? And can this person be safe? If we can do that, I want to make sure we do it, whether it be the misdemeanors, the less than a gram drug cases. Let's see what we can do. But sometimes a deferred or probation is appropriate. Sometimes jail or prison is appropriate. And sometimes the death penalty is appropriate. Mm-hmm. You have to have a district attorney that represents everybody equally and fairly, not just one party, not just one group. Nobody gets favorable treatment down there. And this guy's all about favors for friends.
That's why I don't even think the district attorney's position or sheriff's position should even be party affiliated.
Thank you very much. I tell everybody that my office will be independent of politics. In fact, you can call me an independent Republican, because honestly, it is not about Democrat or Republican. This is a Harris County problem.
It's about doing the right thing.
And we have to fix this, and we can fix this. But you cannot go down the same path and take someone that's been in the office as a high-ranking lieutenant and say, oh, he's going to do different. No, you're going to get worse. Right now, the only thing preventing Harris County from becoming those other backed crazy places like Philadelphia and Chicago, which, by the way, he went to the New York Times on March 5th and said, I see myself, the Texas version of that, meaning Philadelphia and Chicago. Are you kidding me? And now you want to backtrack and say that you're friendly to law enforcement, that you're friendly to victims? No. It is the job of the DA's office to seek justice for victims while protecting defendants' rights, because you're not protecting just the defendants' rights, you're protecting everybody else's rights.
On the failed experiment, it's really funny. The Travis County District Attorney, crime in Austin's out of control. Officers are leaving Austin PD. And this week it came out Monday afternoon that the district attorney subversively moved $115,000 over into his budget for him to have security installed in his home and for him to have a protective detail assigned to him for the taxpayers to pay for. And Twitter is eating him alive that if you hadn't turned the criminals out and endorsed crime, you might feel safe.
Wouldn't need it.
And they're posting about the hypocrisy and, being safe from criminals, good for me, not for thee. And I'm thinking, man, that's not a smart move. Why do these social experiment people keep doing the same thing, expecting a different, that's
maddening. Actually what they call, that's the definition of insanity.
Yep.
It is trying the same thing over to get a different result. And it's like, why would you do this? And you have to ask, why would someone want to do this? In fact, you've got someone that really, honestly, he didn't need to go do what he did. He didn't need to go get Lena's endorsement. He didn't need to go take Soros money, but he'll be forever linked to that.
Yeah.
And you never lose that. And there's not one Soros-backed district attorney in the country that any law enforcement official can say anything positive about. Why would you think anything will be different now? We have a path to victory here. We have a way to win, because when you have someone like me, and I'm not your typical Republican, from foster care to district attorney, it's a good story.
Wow.
First Thurgood Marshall district attorney in Harris County history, it's a good story. But also 16 years of business experience, a real prosecutor, a real defense attorney. I've freed more minorities in the Harris County than my opponent. You want to talk about being a lethal prosecutor or defense attorney? This is what I do. My entire career in law has been the legal criminal justice system. And I have a relationship with everybody down there. I've worked with all those prosecutors. I've worked with all those judges. They've known me for years. We can fix this, but we cannot fix it by doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
Yep.
You can't have somebody that's bought and paid for, that's owned by Lena, Rodney, the defense bar. Think about this. Personal injury lawyers gave him $600,000. $100,000 came from Montgomery County, not even in Harris County. They don't even have a criminal practice. What do they get for their money? People do not give you $600,000 and say, hey, good luck, thank you. No. Everybody's expecting something.
If you'd let me know about that,
I would, right? I'd like $600,000. Come on. But I'd like to ask him that question. Honestly, what did you promise? And you don't get that without making promises you can't keep. And now when you're promising everybody something, you can't live up to it. You've got a district attorney right here that will benefit everybody in Harris County equally, that's not bought and paid for. I have no strings attached to me. But I don't need that, because you will have somebody doing the right thing whether you're looking or not. And yeah, DA file down in the Harris County, there's always political issues going on. But I can tell you this, what's in my file? I went to bat to protect a defendant where a prosecutor couldn't make the case. She emailed her chief and said, hey, if Dan said dismiss, he's a trial dog. He knows what he's talking about. She went forward and she lost her case, and it was an acquittal, not a hung jury, an acquittal. On the flip side of that, I went to bat to protect a victim. A judge in Montgomery County's parents were about killed in a DWI accident, 106 miles an hour from the behind, about killed him. It was a misdemeanor filing, and that judge was really not happy about it. She had reached out to Devin, and it was on everybody's radar. But it landed on my desk after sitting on somebody else's desk for 4 months to evaluate it. I evaluated it, and it was easily intox assault. I presented it, got an indicted felony, and got a written up that my opponent's little protege over there likes to say, oh, look at his evaluation where he has poor judgment. Well, guess what? When that evaluation came out, that case was still a felony. If it was poor judgment, why didn't it get moved back to misdemeanor? But more importantly, it pled to a felony. They pled guilty to a felony. I went to bat for a defendant. I went to bat for a victim, and I'll do it again. This is who I am. Doesn't matter to me. You can write whatever you want. I will do the right thing whether you're looking or not. This is what we need. You have to have integrity. And it's 3 things I tell people. We have justice for victims, integrity to our office, safety to our community. Another way of saying is bringing justice to defendants, integrity to the process, safety to our streets. This is what I stand for and what I can do. But I need people out there to know.
So for the line level officer out there that's listening, that works in Harris County, there a lot of discussion has been made And in fact, Kevin Lawrence, I believe, actually confirmed this, that Harris County is the only county in Texas that you've got to call and get permission as far as the intake process.
Yeah. So
what have you heard anything about this process, or what are you planning on doing to fix it?
Every arrest has to be approved by a intake prosecutor.
It's
2
not,
a.m.
Yeah, it's not new. It's actually several counties do it. Montgomery County does it.
But not maybe to the level of degree that Harris County does it.
Harris County. So here's the issue that was what happened right off the bat. And I'm not going to speak for Kim, but when she did get rid of everybody that worked intake and put in people that have never worked in a court, that was a mistake.
Yes.
People make mistakes. But they've tried to revert back, getting prosecutors in there that work the courts that are working there now. I know a couple people in there. Johnny Holmes did a great job of creating and fixing and promoting and saying, look, we're going to have these prosecutors that work in court do intake. It makes sense, right? And it worked for a long time. Rosenthal, all the way up through Devon, and here we are right back to where we started. You have to have seasoned veteran prosecutors that work in the courts taking charges. But I want to take it a step further. I want to reach out to all law enforcement and have our prosecutors go out and talk to them. I want an officer that calls in to know why it's being pushed for further investigation or decline or accepted. I want them to know why.
So you're still going to maintain that process of having to call and get permission for the office?
That process is actually really, really good at not wasting your time. We have 13,000 total law enforcement throughout Harris County. It's 4.7 million people. That is a buffer to be able to go and screen these and say, hey, this right here you're missing. Because if you have a DWI, and I'll go down it, officer calls in and says, hey, we've got this guy, came upon him, sitting in the driver's seat, smells like alcohol, red bloodshot eyes, slur speech, got him out, unsteady on his feet, did the field sobriety test, 6 of 6, 4 of 8, 2 of 4. We got a consent to blow, and he blew .10. Sounds like a good case, except one problem. How'd you come into contact with him? On the side of the road. How long has he been there? I don't know. Was his car running? No. Was it hot? No. Keys in the ignition? No. Got a problem. You have to screen these, and that will prevent that from happening. But it's got to be done by somebody that's qualified that can do it. What I want to do is something a little different. I want to combine intake and grand jury. I don't want prosecutors to get pretty much bored in intake. I want them to also go present to the grand jury, because if you're going to accept cases, you can go present to the grand jury. There's a way to do this for people not to get bored, that can do their jobs, but we have to have quality prosecutors down there. And the first thing you have to do is create a positive work environment. You got to get rid of inter-office bullying. You've got to give prosecutors discretion. You can make things a lot better because you want people to want to come to work. You do that, we can go around town and get a lot of these prosecutors that are practicing defense that got fired and the ones that have left the county to come back. We do that, we basically overnight become an experienced office. And now we can train the younger staff. Now when they go through misdemeanor, you're going to make mistakes there. This is the place to try cases. This is where you want to get that experience. You don't want your first 2 or 3 cases to be in felony. That is a mistake. You've got to get back to where you take care of people, because the number one asset at the DA's office is people.
Yeah.
And right now, the commissioner's court, they're very underfunded. But if they really care
you got important underfunding going on at Harris County.
If they really care, they need to invest more in public safety, and not just the defense side, not just PD's office. You got to put in the prosecution. The way I look at it is this way. You have one fire department in Harris County 50 years ago. It grows in 20 years. One fire department grows in 30 years. One fire department. Now it's 50 years later, still one fire department. You got to keep up with it. The courts are doing it. They're expanding and adding courts all the time, but the DA's office isn't expanding.
Let me ask you this too, because this came up in a different podcast or a different discussion. If your office feels like the bond reform, the bonds issues, a lot of times, not speaking for every county in Texas, but a lot of times in the cops tend to blame the DA's office when it comes to bail situations. They had a hand in it maybe, but it has to do with magistrates. And so would you be willing that if you see a problem with a magistrate that maybe had a bond too low, did a PR bond,
or consistently sets low bonds.
Are you willing to stand with law enforcement to say, this is bullshit, this should have never happened? And I think that's one of the troubling things that we see in some of the blue cities that has the higher crime rates is there's a bond issue going on, and it has something to do with the DAs, but it has everything to do with the magistrates.
Very well said, and I will tell you this. I'll take it a step further for you, okay? When the Chronicle started blasting Kim Ogg to help boost my opponent, they were talking about blaming Kim for all these cases that were accepted no PC. They're falsely arresting people. The DA's office does not decide somebody's guilt, and they do not decide probable cause. An elected official in the commissioner's court appoint magistrates. The magistrate decides that, not the DA's office. So I want to make that clear right there. The Chronicle, that was false. To blame it on Kim that she was accepting all these charges, no. The magistrate is the one who accepts or finds PC, not the DA's office.
Right. You're in arraignment.
And you need full transparency at the DA's office, and not just there, the courts. I want everybody to know what's going on down there. Let's every day keep a tally. What's going on? There's a blog right now that kind of keeps tallies along of prosecutors and defense attorneys, and Show Me the Justice website. Let's do the same thing with the courts. Let's see what's going on with the courts. And I'm not throwing the judges under the bus. Here's my carrot. Look, let's work together. Let me give you the tools you need to do your job. Let's also go get rid of the O'Donnell consent decree. Let's give the judges their discretion back. Let's let them do their job. Right now, as long as that is in play, a lot of cases, people are just going to keep walking in and out. There are some people down there with 16 bonds. Like, how does that happen? You've got murders and rapists. Mainly, the one rapist had a PR bond.
Yeah.
Think about how the victim felt about that.
And the risk to public safety on that.
That's right. And when you get rid of the bondsman, you're getting rid of a very essential tool to keep violent offenders to either show up to court and keep the community safe. You're going to let them out. Think of it this way. I don't know what's more frustrating for an officer to go make an arrest and then to know that that person's right back out, and now they got to go chase them down because they don't want to go to court. We have to have a balance down there, and getting rid of the bondsman altogether and going no cash bonds like my opponent wants to do is crazy. That has failed everywhere it's been tried.
What's more frustrating is not even that. It's for when officers find out that another family's fallen victim because of the lack of experience and lack of persistent or pursuit of justice. When they find another victim and have to work that second case and it could have been prevented. That's the most frustrating thing.
Talk to Andy Conn at Crime Stoppers. Over 200 people were murdered by people out on bond.
Wow.
That's
One is too
number.
many.
Yeah.
One is too many. And there are ways to prevent this. And you take a Good Samaritan that was at McDonald's, got into an altercation, tried to break it up, got shot for it. That guy was out on bond for ag assault, deadly weapon against a family member carrying a gun around. When you create a criminal safe haven in Harris County, this is what you get. Yeah. People walking around with zero accountability. You had one guy shoot his girlfriend multiple times in front of EMS, and he stood over a body, waited for the life to leave. He then gets into a shootout with the police and steals the police car, but then returns to the scene to get his car. This is what we have going on. And then when you have an opponent out there that his number one issue is a national issue that's not even related to the DA's office because no woman in the state of Texas faces criminal prosecution for seeking or getting an abortion, and no provider is going to be prosecuted criminally, they don't even recognize that there's a crime problem in Harris County that's dangerous. Yeah. And that's what we're up against.
Let me ask you something real quick, because
Sure.
This is another topic a lot of our members face in Harris County. Do you think, of all the stuff that Lena Hidalgo has been under the microscope for, do you feel like it's appropriate for her or the office that she holds to be able to practice as the Harris County judge with all of the accusations going on? I'm leading into something. The Brady list across the state is up for interpretation. And I'm comfortably going to say this. Harris County has been a focal point for us because we had the most Brady cases come out of Harris County for unforeseen reasons and even unexplained reasons. what is your take on the Brady list, and how are we going to fix it, and how can we all sit down in a room and say, this is how I interpret it, and how can we get to the bottom of how we can all at least maintain some kind of understanding?
Well, literally, the Brady list is interpreted 254 different ways in the 254 counties in Texas.
Yeah.
Here's my take. You should not be afraid as law enforcement to stand by your actions. If there is something that we want to disclose, I think it is important to disclose. I don't want anybody to be arrested or convicted of something that should have been suppressed. I'm not interested in that. We should be able to stand by our evidence and stand by our investigators and investigations. And on Lena, I'll tell you right now, I've been fighting my entire life to get here. If somebody's going to accuse me of something, I'm going to walk out there and say, fine, go ahead, indict me. Let's go fight this. Let me go show you that this is a witch hunt. Let me show you. But that's not the way they took it.
So the point I'm making is that when officers are placed on the Brady list, we don't have that opportunity.
There's no recourse.
Our members have no recourse to even fight that. So they are literally handcuffed with no appellate process.
Terminated usually.
No way to defend themselves. And so my point is that I'm glad you said that, but also let's look at it from a 30,000 view, 33,000 point view. And let's look at it collectively. It all begins with a conversation and having a discussion and not being one-sided one way or the other. But officers are being put on the Brady list for simply calling in sick and it being misinterpreted. It could be that small. That's ludicrous.
Well, I can tell you right now that we all have to bring everybody to the table and fix these things because law enforcement is not your enemy. And right now, a lot of people don't even call in cases. They just refuse to call the police because you're handcuffed. You feel like you can't do your job. I mean, you had a situation that Mark Herman, the constable over there, talked about, where this guy came out of his the motel with a gun. 3 young officers, none of them fired. An older generation officer would have fired. They're afraid to even defend themselves, and those officers very well could have gotten killed.
And let me be clear on that. What you mean is that the officers were justified in using deadly force because the level of safety for the public is at risk. So they weren't firing just because the guy had a gun. I'm sorry. I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
We have some
they never
listeners.
Fired. They never fired.
But I'm saying a seasoned
would
officer
have been justified.
Yeah, it would have been justified. With that guy coming out and raised that gun, they could have fired.
A
but
seasoned officer would have had the whole peripheral understanding of doing that. So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, we have officers getting hurt, choosing to get beat up rather than defend themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid they'll get indicted.
But I'm not going out there and saying, you know what, I'm going to give officers a blank check.
Sure.
You're going to be still held accountable for your actions.
Absolutely.
Everybody is. And I want the agency to investigate and say, Dan, you made a mistake. It is what it is, man. You got to do what you got to do. I want that kind of transparency. We can work together and we can fix this. But here's the problem we have right now. We're now victimizing victims. And let me give you an example. I had a case where clearly this guy, the Castle Doctor, definitely played in part. This guy had broken in, was given a night to stay at a friend's house, homeless guy, and then he was told to leave after that next night. The guy refused to leave. 5 different nights, the officers came and removed this individual, and this guy broke back in every time. But the 5th time, it turned violent. This guy's in his house 10:30 at night, and this guy breaks in through a hole in the kitchen because there's a refrigerator blocking the door that won't lock. The guy's kicked in multiple times. Jesus. He breaks in, and the guy's, I just want to get my stuff out of the room. I just want to get my stuff out of the room. He goes, fine, go to get it out of the room. The guy emerges with a hatchet, a tomahawk-like hatchet, and starts swinging at my client. Got him right across here. Put holes in the wall. My guy pushed a chair down the hall, and the guy's coming. He takes an old .22 rifle and shoots the hatchet out of his hand. The guy then reaches down with the other hand, picks it up, and he shoots his arm.
Wow.
The guy stops, takes him to the front door, calls EMS. Guess who got arrested?
The homeowner?
The homeowner. I had to go through the grand jury to get that no build. I don't want to victimize victims again. We have got to send a clear message that you can defend yourself in Harris County. I'm tired of us spending all this money on these violent offenders and not caring about victims.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to protect yourself. And it's not happening. There's a policy in play that most shootings, I have to go before the grand jury. Is that really necessary? We can still have level of scrutiny and look at everything, but do we have to go that far on some of these? That right there should never have gotten passed. In fact, they should have taken the other guy to jail. This is what we're facing. I practice real defense cases down there, and a lot of my clients are people in situations like that.
Sad.
And we can fix that, but you only fix it if we work together.
Yeah.
I would two things. I would really take you to task when you win to reach out and communicate with all the local law enforcement, because one thing that's been interesting, not just in Harris County, I spent my whole career at an agency in Dallas County, and my whole career, my dad did 34 years before that, his whole career, law enforcement and the district attorney's office were allies. We didn't do the same job, and our mission wasn't the same, but it was close, and it was justice. Whatever justice may look like, we kicked the football and got it, and then we handed the baton off to you guys. But it was a relationship, and there was an alliance there, and it was a partnership for justice. Now, Dallas County, Travis County, Harris County, not only is it no longer an alliance, it is a hostile relationship. There's no trust. There's animosity. Nobody wants to work together. And that's just not how this works. And it's not efficient. It's not in the best interest of the community. It's not in the best interest of victims. And I don't know, rural Texas, when we travel the state a lot, there's still so many good places, probably Montgomery County. There's still places where justice is served, law enforcement, the DA's office work together, they collaborate. I didn't grow up in an area where I had to call and ask somebody if I could arrest somebody. I was given the
God-given freedom.
I was given the trust to arrest somebody.
Yeah.
At arraignment, probably twice in my life, the judge called and woke me up and said, "Hey, I'm not sure I like PC on this deal. You need to come in and either tweak it if you have something, or if you don't, I'm about to boot them out." But we were given authority, and I know that does not sit well in Harris County with officers. But even if it's continued, I can't tell you how often we hear from people, "Yeah, I called some probably 22-year-old kid that's had a law degree 6 months, and they're at 3 a.m., they're trying my case of a DWI, and I've been a cop 20 years, and I have some 20-year-old trying my case." And I can understand the frustration on that. I've never been through that because that wasn't our process.
Well, that's fixable. That's easily fixable.
But I think the trust has to come back. And if it's never a perfect alliance again, the trust and professional relationship come back and be healed again. And I appreciate your goals and where you've been and where you're looking to head, because there's a lot of work to be done there. And I certainly don't think somebody that Soros is in love with is the right person for Harris County.
You said it best, and this is the best thing. Harris County residents have lost confidence in our law enforcement. Our law enforcement has lost confidence in the DA's office. It starts at the DA's office. If you got a strong DA that's willing to stand for victims, hold people accountable, protect defendants' rights, it'll filter down to the law enforcement that you can trust the DA's office. And now you can go out there and earn the trust of all the people calling in that, hey, you have law enforcement that has your back because we're all working together. Yeah. The whole goal is to seek justice. It's public safety. It's the number one goal of all of our elected officials. And right now, I'm running to actually work for everybody in Harris County. This is their office, not mine.
Yep.
When I win in November, they're the big winners.
Yep.
We have too many elected officials that you work for them. We can fix that. And I'll tell you this is who I am. If I get it, when I get elected, and I get in there and I look at every case, and Lena's case will be looked at just like all the rest. Nobody's getting favoritisms. Nobody's getting special treatment. If it's a witch hunt, I'd walk out on the front steps and dismiss all those cases and tell you why. But if it's not, Ken Paxton's going to continue his job. This is who I am because I don't care about politics. What I do care about is, can I have a prosecutor that's going to seek justice, protect the defendant's rights, and make our community safe? Can we do that?
And that's interesting. You said the citizens have lost faith in law enforcement in Harris County. If people knew how weaponized district attorneys' offices have become. So I worked as a detective most of my career. when you have an officer-involved shooting, the one person in an officer-involved shooting or a high-profile critical incident is the lead detective. Crime scene detective has some information. The patrol officer that took the initial report has some information, all these different people. But the lead detective is the holder of the facts. That's who's gathered all the facts. In Dallas County, the lead detective is not allowed to present to grand jury any longer. He's not called as a witness. He's not asked to present in any form or fashion. In a very high-profile officer-involved shooting in Dallas County, the Texas Ranger was the lead detective. The state did not call him. He was the defense witness, and when defense declared they were going to have him on as a defense witness, the state tried to block it. When we've come to the point that the prosecutor is trying to block their star, who should be their star, from being able to testify, and he becomes the defense star witness, we have flipped a 180 upside down in what the mission of this collaboration is actually supposed to be. And it's the weaponization is the really sad, shocking, disgusting point. So it hurts when you say the citizens of Harris County have lost trust in Harris County law enforcement when, man, it's a guy pushing a police car in the middle of the night trying to catch bad guys and serve and protect. But they feel like they're up against a wall.
I think what you meant to say was they've lost faith in the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
And law enforcement's included in that, just because like we've had I'll call it what it is, and I don't mean to upset anybody that's on law enforcement in Harris County, but like the sex assault victim, that's a excuse my language, it's a fuck up. I mean, that affects all of us. But it impacts the criminal justice perception. So the image of criminal justice within Harris County needs to be addressed. And so,
but guess who the people see out there first?
I agree.
They're getting blamed for it, but we can fix that. What I give, I do not tell my story for sympathy. I tell it for hope that those kids out there that are homeless and in foster care, that look, one day you could be in the position asking for everybody to vote for you to make a difference.
It's an incredible story.
We can make this, and we can do this. We can change things. We can do a 180. And there's a way to do this and to do justice reform, but a real justice reform. But it takes someone with the eyes that I can look through, the eyes of a former prosecutor, defense attorney, businessman. I have over 16 years of solid business that I've worked on my own. I know what it means to be falsely accused and to have to fight your innocence. But more importantly, I know what it means to be a victim, a child victim. You put all those in one, there's never been a candidate like that. I can make a difference, but I can't do it alone. It's going to take a lot of people. And it's going to take law enforcement. It's going to take the community to reach and help, because this is their community. This is not just mine. Yeah. And I'm willing to risk everything for it. I have a very comfortable life. I have made a very good practice for myself, but I know what I stand to lose if I don't prevail in November. And I'm okay with that. You know why? Because everybody out there is worth it. It's worth it for the chance.
Dumb question for our viewers, but will there be, is there a debate? Is there a time when you guys would be on a stage or in a venue where you guys would have a debate?
I hope so. I think it'd be really important for people to see us side by side. I mean, I'd have been happy to have them sitting over there.
Nobody's done that yet?
No, we've had people reach out, but honestly, I'd like to get Thurgood Marshall involved and say, hey, we're going to host a debate for you guys. Let's go ahead and go into Thurgood Marshall.
Maybe
Let's do a debate.
Grip podcast team will knock it out.
Maybe they'll do that. I think that it doesn't matter.
Let's go.
I think it's important to see both candidates. I think it'll be fun to have a conversation. And I have nothing against him, okay? But you are who you surround yourself with. I've got Mattress Mac endorsing me. Whenever things go downhill in Harris County and the local government can't help you, guess who does? A guy named Mattress Mac. He'll open his doors to you. He's done more for the community, and those are the voters that I want to reach because he trusts me. They should be able to trust me.
Well, let's get it set up.
So
when is the election? November.
October 21st is the early voting.
Okay.
And then we have November 5th is going to be the election day.
Okay.
And I'd be curious. I mean, I think it'd be important to have a debate. I think we need to hopefully set it up.
Well, do me a favor, me and him and John Sariga, who's running our camera, and some other people with Tmpa, we would love to be at the election night watch party. I've never been to one.
I've never been to one.
And
I've never been important enough.
Well, hey, come on over. We're going to hopefully have a real big one. I'm going to go out there and still reach to everybody because I'm not only reaching just the voters, I'm hitting donors as well, going, hey, give me a shot. Look at what I've accomplished with very little help in my background. Imagine what I can do with your help. Imagine what we can do together. We can make a difference. And I'm willing, you know what, they're going to attack me. That's fine. Bring it on. I don't care. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's worth it to give Harris County a shot for victims and people to realize you can be safe. You're okay with your kid going to the mall or going to the park or knowing they're going to go to school and come home, or your husband and wife going to work and they're going to come home, and to feel safe in your own home. I want to give everybody that chance, and I can deliver a safer Harris County, and I can do it with all of your help. I need everybody reaching as far as they can to help me. I'm not getting the big Soros money. 80 or 90% of his money is coming from outside of Harris County. Why is that? 80, 90% of my money, actually, almost 100% comes from inside Harris County for me.
Where can people find out about your campaign?
DanForDA.com. So it's either for or FORD. So
Both
so
work.
It's like, yeah, DanFORDA.com.
Good marketing strategy right there.
So, well, and I will say this. I did get a nice nickname by the defense bar when I was prosecutor. And because, I held people's feet to the fire. I wasn't, a complete asshole to them, but I was very firm.
Yeah.
I was very reasonable. And I'd walk into the court and I was like, oh, here comes DA Dan. It was not a term of endearment. It was like, here comes this guy. Well, it kind of stuck. But I'm a prosecutor for everybody. I've protected defendants' rights in trial before because I saw the other person not doing the job. I'm not interested in out there convicting anyone that is not guilty of it.
Yeah.
And this is what I stand for. This is what I will deliver to Harris County, and this is where the prosecutors that I want trained are in that mindset. But you've got to create a positive work environment because it starts at the DA's office that'll roll all the way through law enforcement, all the way out to the activists in the community that are in their communities and all the people living in Harris County. It doesn't matter who you are, but it starts with this race because guess what happens if I don't win? Philadelphia, Chicago, Portland, San Francisco,
Man, a movie.
LA.
Right? It's called The Purge.
And Dallas and Austin come to Houston. If you want to stop that, help me win it.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of people leaving Harris County. And there's one more thing that I do not like about my opponent. He does nothing to protect businesses, talks nothing about it. There are so many business owners out there. They're like, people come in and steal from us. You're not going to take that seriously because it's not a serious offense. When you have a district attorney that won't protect businesses, now businesses aren't inclined to come to Harris County because they have a DA that's not going to protect their property or their assets. In fact, they leave Harris County. And what happens? Who gets affected the most? The minority communities, the black community, Hispanic communities, the Asian communities, the Vietnamese communities. They get affected the most by the fake bond reform, by all the fake justice reform, and businesses leaving. They are the ones getting impacted the first, and those are the ones they're counting on to go vote for them.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them an opportunity to have a DA that actually cares for everybody in Harris County, not just one party. That's what I'll deliver to Harris County. And in November will just be the start of it because the real work would start January 1st.
Well, you guys find more information out. We're going to put the website right here, right here. You got anything else?
If your opponent were to drive up and come on, would you be willing to come
Absolutely.
back up and sit on with him?
Absolutely.
Let's go. Hey, maybe we'll do like a boxing type theme debate. We can be, hey, we can have the microphone come from the ceiling in this corner. That'd be cool.
Let's
man.
get ready to rumble.
I mean, we won't have our shirts off, but it'll be kind of like a stage deal.
I like it.
I think it's important for transparency purposes.
I agree.
At the end of the day, you've got two people that are trying to say the same thing. Only one you can believe. And the one you can believe, look around and who he surrounded himself with. When you got Lena, Rodney, Sylvester Turner, and Soros on one side, and you got Mattress Mac on the other side, who are you going to believe? Because we both have to say the same thing now. He has to come out there and try to move back to the middle.
Yeah.
But when you go that far left to remove Kim Ogg, I don't know who's really going to believe it, but apparently there are people that do believe it because they believe Harris County isn't winnable.
Yep.
But it really is because the election hasn't happened yet, has it? I mean, I haven't lost yet, have I?
Well,
so still going.
If it hasn't occurred and there's nothing on the immediate horizon, I would love for the citizens to have the opportunity to see you and him side by side and speak and share and engage.
Yeah.
I personally like that style to hear. It's easy to stand alone, and I don't mean this. I've run
I
for
agree.
office before. It's easy to stand somewhere and say whatever, and we've seen it on the national scale. But when you have to stand across, I think it's important, and I think you get good, digestible information and feedback out of that.
If you can get him to agree, that'd be wonderful. But I don't think it's going to happen unless the polls continue down the trend they are, where he starts losing, then he'll agree.
Okay.
But I'm not afraid to stand up to anybody.
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it out.
All right.
El Presidente, you got anything else?
I don't. I can't thank you enough. I know you were hoofing it and working today and beating doors and working and visiting with people. And then to drive up here to be on this, we're incredibly.
Well, I currently practice. I was in court all morning. I had about 8 or 10 cases, and then I had a meet after that and then drive up here. But, this is the name of the game. I still work for a living. I don't have all the other privileges and things like that. And in fact, I'll be leaving tonight, going home, reviewing my cases tonight for tomorrow and going back to work tomorrow and keep on doing this. And I can do this all day long. I mean, this is what I was built for. And if God's going to put me through all the stuff he put me through, let's make it work. Let's make it count. And now's the time to use it. Yep. But we can make a difference.
Well, win or lose in November, your story is incredible. And I appreciate that you shared it. You have the brave person to come out and share that. And I think it's important for people to hear it because they see on the outside this shiny, sharp-looking guy, and for them to get the context and the texture of what's gone on. I think it's important to share our bumps and our bruises, and we can be shiny on the outside and probably, you don't know the storm that we faced in the past. And win or lose in November, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
I do appreciate that, and thank you guys very much for having me. I mean, this is awesome to be here today, so it was definitely worth the drive to meet you guys.
I
appreciate it sincerely.
Well, this about wraps it up. You guys take care, stay safe. God bless you, and as always, may God bless Texas. We're out.